Welcome back to Talking Shit, where we are talking all sorts of shit. Schitt's Creek, that is. Today, we are talking about Season 4, Episode 2, Pregnancy Test. And of course, as always, I am joined by someone who has been on a real Dorito casserole kick lately. Stuart, how are you?
Do I need to be concerned if that's the case? Do I need to make someone aware of, my current status?
Yes.
What is Dorito casserole?
My assumption is, what it sounds to me, it's very American sounding. It sounds like you do like a typical like chicken casserole with, your shredded chicken, your cream of chicken soup, kind of peas and carrots and all that mixed veggies in it. And then my assumption is the topping is like, instead of breadcrumbs or something, you crunch up Doritos. That is my assumption. I'm going to Google this real quick. Dorito.
How are you guys the superpower of the world when that is stuff that you're eating?
There is a recipe online, naturally, of course. 4.8 stars, 59 reviews. Yeah, it looks kind of like what I said. It looks like ground beef, though. It has ground beef and taco seasoning. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. The Doritos. Oh, you can use nacho cheese or Cool Ranch Doritos. So you got some options. Do you have Doritos over there?
We do, yeah.
Do you have Cool Ranch Doritos?
No, they're called, Cool or something. It's weird. They're not called Ranch.
They're not called Cool Ranch. Cool Ranch are the best ones.
Yeah. I think they come in the blue packet. They're the same flavor, I'm sure they are. But they're called, Cool Original or something.
Cool Original.
So weird.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
Because you guys hate on ranch over there, so I get it.
I mean, I had to go to lengths together when you were shaming me for not having tried it. And I was like, oh, okay. It's just a tangy sauce. Wonderful.
It's good. It's ranch. What can I say? Anyway, don't forget to subscribe. Talking Shit everywhere, especially on YouTube, where we're up to 132 subscribers or something like that. Very exciting. But can I tell you? Okay, this is so funny. This is coming up because the goal is to get to 200. And the promise was we will do something, but not be waterboarded.
Something.
Literally watched an episode of a show today or yesterday that had waterboarding involved. And I was like, wow, okay. There you go.
Definitely don't want that. Yeah.
No, it looks bad.
Why are we obsessing on the waterboarding? It seems to really have been taken. Seems like the worst thing to keep reminding ourselves of is we're not going to waterboard ourselves. No, I should hope not.
No, it sounds terrible. Anyway, Stuart, thoughts on pregnancy test?
This is hands down my favorite episode of Schitt's Creek so far.
Whoa!
I've watched this episode 3 times, and I just rewatched it 20 minutes ago to make sure it was fresh in the mind. I would gladly watch it right again. I was still laughing out loud at some of the jokes. And
okay.
I'm on my own. I'm not doing it performatively. I was just there, creased up with some of the stupid jokes that came up in it. It's brilliant, is it not? There's we've got
great,
solid plots. Last. It's got everything. I don't think there's a bad note with this episode. I could be wrong. Maybe you'll correct me, but I loved it all.
There's a lot to love. There's a lot to love this episode. Like you said, I think a really good episode moves the plot forward, but also has plenty of jokes, which this episode does. Let's remind everyone what happened this episode with a little bit of a recap here at the top. Things start off to a shocking start when Johnny finds a positive pregnancy test in David and Alexis's trash. Johnny assumes it's Alexis's, which leads to a very funny interaction between them where Johnny thinks Alexis is talking about her pregnancy and Alexis thinks Johnny is talking about her going to Elmdale Community College. Speaking of Elmdale CC or ECC, as the cool people call it, they are using some real false advertising on their brochures, leading Alexis to not be super jazzed about attending, even though all of Jocelyn's best students go there. Oh, and that pregnancy test that we talked about, yeah, it's Jocelyn's. And yes, before you ask, the baby is Roland's, so don't worry about that.
Wasn't it a revenge affair?
Yeah. Moira is elated to hear that there won't be a bebe in her near future. Meanwhile, David and Patrick don't have any privacy to themselves to get busy. So after David gives a half a hickey, which we will be talking about, to Patrick in the back of the store during business hours, Stevie offers them her apartment for the night because she is, quote unquote, going to a spa, which is actually code for spending the night in the woods with Jake. And yes, that Jake. The foursome has a super awkward encounter in Stevie's apartment where we learn Jake calls Stevie Pony, and David is forced to explain his relationship with the pair to Patrick. Don't worry, everything's okay, because the morning after, David does the walk of shame back to the motel, and all is well. And that's what happened on Pregnancy Test, Stuart.
Wild. I feel like there's so much to talk about.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
I mean, the biggest thing, obviously, is the pregnancy. Because, I mean, with an episode title like this, there were some, like, thoughts as to what it could be. And I can't remember if I threw out names. I think I might have.
Yeah, so you were like, if there's going to be a fake out, you thought that people would assume it was like Alexis's or something like that, or Jocelyn's, but it was really going to be a motel guest's. But you did mention Jocelyn and Roland at one point. So like you weren't super off base.
Called it. Claiming it. I am psychic.
Yeah. And I did look it up because I was interested if it was because the actor was pregnant, because a lot of times that happens where an actor gets pregnant and then they write it into the show.
Yeah.
And she wasn't. They did it because they wanted to.
I love that. That. They wrote it in because they're messy. And
why not?
They want this. It's just the way in which I think everything around this was resolved really kind of like really vibed with me, because there wasn't this really drawn out, should I tell him, shouldn't I tell him? There wasn't this kind of like Johnny being like going down the entire episode of like believing one thing. They kind of got the juice out of the joke and then resolved it and then moved on. And it was really kind of like good. It was like an elegant choice with a lot of the writing. The fact, I think maybe one of the key reasons why I'm so high on this episode is it's made me do a complete 180 on Johnny, because Johnny his whole reaction to everything to do with this was freaking wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that because like when I don't usually put in whoever my like simply the best and disgruntled pelicans are before we podcast, but I'm often thinking about it while I'm watching the episode. And the entire time I was like, gosh, Johnny is the person, you need him, that sort of person involved, because he's like, it takes him less than a day to budget for 2 years of this baby arriving. And I was like, you know what? And he immediately, Stuart, it wasn't, Moira's reaction is more of like, I mean, you would expect it from Moira, but like extremely selfish of like, oh my gosh, she wasn't thinking at all of us. We're going to have to raise the baby. And Johnny is more like, well, if we sell the car, if we use all of David's money, if you get a second job, like we can afford to help Alexis with this baby. Meanwhile, Alexis is like in her late 20s. Like her parents don't have, she's not 16 and pregnant, you know? But he's handling this really well for like someone who, you know, you might expect to not handle it well.
Yeah, you could expect him to completely fumble this in a really awkward way. Like, I don't know, maybe try and like set Alexis down and give a very kind of late birds and the bees talk of like why it's important to have protection and we wouldn't be in this mess kind of situation. But he doesn't. He just goes into full like dad mode. And it's like, well, I need to look after her. No one else is stepping up here. She doesn't have Ted around. Like, Ted's not even aware of it. Like, David clearly isn't helping his sister, isn't looking out for her.
Sorry, I'm not a condom. It's like one of my favorite lines.
So good. And then, like, even Moira is freaking out and being like, let the nuns take care of the little stranger. Like, she's full Moira meltdown.
Move into one of those homes for unwed mothers.
It was just, so you can see why Johnny is the way he is at times, and why when he does fumble things, why I think a lot of people will forgive him for stuff like that, because he is this dependable guy that will, when it's necessary, will step up to the plate and will kind of like sort stuff out. And it was just wonderful to see him do that. Like when he was kind of really outraged at everyone being really nonchalant about it. Like even when Moira comes back and goes, oh, we don't need to worry about that. He's like, oh, I think we do situation. Someone has to do that. And good of him to step up. I loved it.
Yeah. Every character is reacting to this pregnancy news in the exact way you'd expect them to, but it's still so funny where Johnny is the planner. He immediately gets down to budgeting and figuring everything out and trying to have this like father-daughter conversation with Alexis while they're both talking about two different subjects. David makes it all about himself. Yeah. And basically uses it as an excuse to get like taken care of by Patrick, which was hilarious. And Moira
He's
also
got a
makes
steady hand.
Yeah, you have the steady hand. And Moira makes it about herself in a very different way to allow an unscheduled conception to occur. Like it's just typical Moira shenanigans, you know? So yeah, everyone reacts how you think they should react. And I love that we get like each character kind of finds out independently of one another that it's not Alexis's. And I love that David doesn't find out until the next day. Yeah. And Alexis tries to get him with like, once the twins arrive. Like it's so good. It's so
clean up their little poops.
It's so nasty. Like it's so perfect. Yeah, it's incredible. And like you said, the way they do this is great because, I mean, what is it? Like the second or third scene we find out is Jocelyn's. They don't make you wait very long before they tell you whose baby it actually is.
Yeah, and it's like even the way in which Jocelyn tells Moira, because like Moira's kind of having a freak out, goes to like it's so funny the way in which they display Moira as being a little shaken with it, when she like does the whole "Have you seen my glasses?" and they're on her head kind of thing. Just so stupid. But then Jocelyn is listening, not divulging things. She's like, when Moira says, "Oh, Alexis is pregnant," she's like, "Oh, really?" And then is waiting for like kind of jump in to kind of correct her and things. And then it's so hilarious to see Moira freaking out, talking about how like kind of stupid it is to have an unplanned pregnancy. Yeah. And then immediately 180s herself with Jocelyn. It's just like, oh, this is amazing.
Oh, Jocelyn, Roland's not the father. It's like, what? My only, and this is like the tiniest nit to pick, but it's just a question I have. And I mean, we podcast about the show, so obviously we're going to talk about all aspects, is like, Jocelyn says she was dropping off a course book for Alexis. And that's why she had like gotten the test from the pharmacy. She was too anxious. So she took the test in Alexis's bathroom, which like is kind of wild considering she lives like a few minutes from the motel. And generally speaking, to my knowledge, you have to like pee in a cup and then wait like 3 to 5 minutes or however long for the thing to like like she was in that bathroom for at least a little bit, you know, like she was hanging out in there for a while. Like you could just do that in the comfort of your own home, Jocelyn, you know? I don't know.
Yeah, but I get that if she was anxious, she'd want to get that over and done with. Like she wants to rip the Band-Aid kind of off. I just think that Alexis is probably the only person that would allow that to happen in her bathroom and like not question it. Like I think Alexis after like 1 minute would have been walking off and would have left Jocelyn to like let herself out kind of thing.
Well, especially because Johnny later on is like, "Oh, I didn't realize how long it took you to do your makeup." And Alexis is like, okay. Like she's used to people taking a while in the bathroom.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of like that made sense to me. Like it's not something that I'm like really kind of gonna quibble over, but I just love the way in which Jocelyn is nervous about telling Roland, but when she does, it's like I think everyone's reaction to the news is just lovely. Like even Moira's when she says miracles don't take reservations, it's like, oh, that's so sweet. It's such a nice thing to say. And then Roland has this moment where you think maybe he might freak out a little bit, and then he's just overcome with joy. Yeah. Of course he would be. Because
it is the nice thing about... Yeah, that's the thing. As much as like Roland gets under my skin and annoys me at times, and this might come out as kind of like a backhanded compliment in a way, but like sometimes like the simplicity of the character of Roland works in his favor. because where people like me, you, Johnny might hear I'm expecting a baby and think dollar signs and college and like, wow, we're a little bit older for doing this. And, you know, and oh my God, like a later in life pregnancy is like scary. Like, you know, my anxiety brain would be filled with those thoughts. But Roland instead is just like elated because all he's hearing is my wife, who I love and adore, is going to have another baby with me. Like, and that's exciting for him. And I love that. Like, it's just like, it's very sweet. And then of course he wants like champagne for the whole bar or the whole room. And he's like, nah, just a beer for me, actually. It's fine.
So wonderful. I wonder if perhaps his excitement is because they get to almost treat it as a do-over for Mutt, and they have to like they can correct
they do-over.
on one. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the way in which Johnny and Moira as well were like, kind of, he ushers them over, like, doesn't take no for an answer. It's like, no, join me for whatever this like exciting news is gonna be. It's like it's a lovely and friendly thing. Yes, it's awkward. And he does like he's being a bit of a doofus, but he's doing it in a kind of lovable way, which is very rare for Roland to be actually really endearing.
Yeah. And I love Johnny when he's like, right? Am I right? Trying to like get Johnny in on the joke. And Johnny's like, I don't need to be a part of this. Like, nah, I'm good. It's very sweet. I'm really happy for them. And I love that Moira is like, I am so happy this is happening to your family. It's so perfect. So yeah, Jocelyn and Roland are now expecting. Do you want to put any bets down, Stuart? Like, sex of the baby, anything like that? Any predictions you have about Jocelyn and her pregnancy?
Oh god. I didn't even consider anything like this. Maybe a little girl. I think like it do the opposites of Mutt kind of thing. Okay, surely the name has gotta be a bit of a weird pun. Like we've talked about Roland sounding a little bit like Roland shit.
Mutt shit, dog shit.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh god, I'm really drawing a blank. I have no idea. How do people name babies? Like, surely this is an impossible task.
Naming a human feels like very high stakes.
I feel like it's the biggest decision you're going to take with someone. Like, my mum, quite famously, like, kind of went through all of the name options for me and was trying to work out all of the different ways in which kids could be mean.
Of course.
And, like, kind of, like, which I feel like is necessary. Doesn't work for a family friend who genuinely wanted to call her newborn son Michael, and yet their surname was going to be Hunt. Would not recommend, and when we pointed it out, they can swiftly put across through that name. But yes.
Yeah, I don't know how that's not the first thing that occurs to you.
I know, right?
Like,
I think if you marry into the name, maybe it's not like front of mind, but still.
I think you always look at initials. You look at possible nicknames. You gotta cover your bases because little kids are both creative and cruel. So you gotta look out for your future child.
Never doubt the creativity of like awful children.
Exactly. So Jocelyn is the one who's expecting a bebe, which we also get. I believe this is the first time that Moira says bebe. Which is just incredible.
I'm gonna pull the curtain back. I think that has been spoiled for me. I think many people have in Moira's voice said bebe to me before, but yeah, I love it.
Yep.
Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials, without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/getstarted for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
In other news, Alexis has started community college. This is incredible, Stuart.
Again, nice, heartwarming news. Like, because not only has she gone into college, like she's doing it off her own back, she's doing it one thing on her own, but she's been saving for it. Like, this is the proper thing. And for her to turn up and be disappointed by it, I was furious on her behalf. Like, if I had a prospectus that had stock imagery and it didn't match the imagery, I'd be livid.
Yep.
Like, surely you want the moss-covered, like, lovely buildings when you go to college, right? You don't want that awful building.
Sure. My campus was ugly. Like, I feel like my college
Mine
campus
too,
was
but...
like very ugly. So that wasn't something I took into consideration, but certainly is something Alexis is thinking about. And it did surprise me a little bit, given that we know Elmdale is literally the next town over. Like she never went to the campus at all before enrolling. No, okay, that's fine. I mean, maybe it's the only option, so it's kind of like a well, whatever. But she's not very excited to be there. It doesn't seem like everything she thought it would be. I loved her planning out her outfit and was like, I want to be a little bit like Carrie Bradshaw, but like, but first day of school. And yeah, the guy does say she could take courses online if she wants to. And at least we do hear, Stuart, that this didn't dissuade her, because at the end of the episode, she says, Dad, listen, I know you wanted me to drop out, but I do think I can make it work financially. So it does seem like she's going to be staying in school.
Yeah, which I'm really excited for. Of all people I expected to return, I didn't expect David's driving teacher to turn up. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he asked Alexis out and she was like, well, I won't be doing any of that, but thank you.
Yeah, he's a DJ too. I do DJ work on. She's like, no thanks, bye. Incredible. So really happy for Alexis to be starting community college. Did you, I can't remember. I think you had predicted maybe she would take some classes or something. Do you have any predictions on like maybe a major or what she's going to be studying? Anything like that?
It's weird because I would have thought if she'd like stuck with the veterinary stuff, I think that would have made sense. Maybe she grew to love it, but clearly it's not for her at all. She seems to like, she took to the business stuff when she was talking to Dave about it. Like, she really seemed to like throwing out those like buzzwords and talking about like, like all the economic kind of like knowledge of like, well, that's actually not really good for business, David. And they actually recommend 2 months of like upfront capital or something stupid like that. So maybe something businessy. But it seems a little dull. Maybe she'll throw in, because you all do like various courses, don't you? Like you do like a major and you usually major in something, take other things like electives. Yeah. That seems to be the word I've heard on American media.
Yeah, basically it's tricky because she's going to a community college, which generally means it's a 2-year program where you'd get your associate's degree. Most people then, once they have their associates from a community college, will transfer to get their bachelor's at like a larger university. So I never been to community college, so I don't exactly know if you like have like a major and a minor, but generally speaking, in regular like university, you would have your major, and then you would have, and that's like what you're studying, what you're going to get your degree in. Then you have your minor, and then, or some people double major, and then you also can take electives, which are kind of just like you need to take a certain amount of classes, and you have some that are, you get to choose whatever you want to do, something like fun and different than your major or minor, generally speaking.
I kind of like that. At university, we had like you have one subject and that's all you do. Like,
so like when you go to university, you don't take, because I went to a state university, which is even more different in that I had to take a ton of general education courses, which meant that like, even though my major had nothing to do with history, I still had to take like 5 history classes. It was too much, Stuart. For someone who sucks at history to have to take that much history, that brought down my GPA. I was not pleased.
Was it American history?
One of them was.
That's not that much to study then. It's all good. Imagine having thousands of years to study, Jess.
I did have to take multiple different types of history. One of them was American history, but I had to take like European. There is like so much history.
Was Hamilton out by that point? Could you just like crib it off of Hamilton? That's how I know most of American history at the moment.
If it was out, I had no idea of its existence. I mean, it's been a while since I was in college, not to age myself or anything, but but yeah, that's what's happening with Alexis. And then David and Patrick, here's the thing. Okay, we know Patrick is living in like a room in Ray's house, so not a ton of privacy there. David shares a motel room with his sister, not a ton of privacy there. The only place they really do have is Rose Apothecary. But like, can't you just close the store at like, I don't know, 6 p.m., whatever time you normally close, go in the back, do your thing. Like, why does it have to be during business hours? That's all I'm saying.
Sometimes the throes of passion, Jess, they just take. They can't keep their hands off each other. Clearly, it's a new romance.
If I'm a customer and I walk in, and one of the owners is like sitting on the counter while the other one is like rubbing eye moisturizer on and like making out in front of me, I'm so uncomfortable. Like so uncomfortable. And David immediately being like, "We don't sell that."
Yeah,
What?
yeah. If you walk into an establishment that is just amber bottles everywhere of like all these kind of like artisanal
Body
things,
milk.
and they say they don't have bath salts, I'd be like, I'm not welcome. Bye.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Like read between the lines.
But we need to talk about the half a hickey here that David gave Patrick.
Why? And not why do we need to talk about? Why are people giving each other hickeys? I've never understood this.
Thank you so much. Okay, I just to throw it out there, in case people only ever listen to me on this podcast, I also co-host a podcast called Shit 90 Shows Taught Me with Sarah. My friend Sarah is very pro PDA and very pro hickey, like very pro hickey to the point where, and again, similarly to David and Patrick, in the throes of a new relationship, she full on looked like a leopard or a cheetah or whichever one of those has spots. Like very pro hickey. I am like you, Stuart. I don't understand the purpose of hickeys. I really don't. Especially not on a place like someone's neck that is like so just front and center. Like people are generally looking at your face and therefore will notice a giant spot on your neck. Like what is even the purpose of that? If you're going to give someone a hickey, do it somewhere that's not noticeable.
Yeah. Have you ever had a hickey?
I mean, in my younger days, like my much younger days.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember a distinct memory of receiving one when I was like 16, I think it was. And suddenly I was wearing scarves everywhere because I was embarrassed as hell. And I was like, it's a choice. It's a fashion choice. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And remarkably, it went away, and I stopped wearing scarves everywhere.
No one thought anything of you just suddenly wearing scarves.
Oh, everyone knew.
Okay,
like
all right.
Everyone must have known. It was ridiculous, but it was so embarrassing. Yeah. Why would you want to be stamped? Is it like I think some people wear it?
I think it's like a branding almost, where it's like, okay, let me just mark. You are marked. You are mine. You are taken. And it's just like, it's so, and I appreciated Patrick's reaction because he's like, David, you didn't give me a hickey, would you? That would be extremely unprofessional. And I'm like, thank you, Patrick. It would be, wouldn't
But you can see why David did it though, because David finds it hilarious. Like David's got this like mischievous little giggle that he kind of like does when that happens.
Yeah.
Because it's like, It's kind of a weird thing of like just pushing Patrick a little bit beyond his boundaries that you know that like kind of that Patrick is probably willing to go beyond those boundaries, but it's just a bit too kind of like prim and proper and like is wearing the shirt and is kind of just too formal. Like he needs someone to be that terrible influence on him, really. So like I can see why David has elected to do it, but yeah, Patrick's reaction was just, I think everyone's reaction that would ever have one is just immediate button it up and just try and cover.
And there's no such thing as a half a hickey. There's a hickey, but there's not a hickey. There's no half.
No, if there's a mark, it's a hickey. I don't care.
Exactly. And so, yeah, Stevie, what did you think of, did you expect to see Jake coming back on the show at all?
No, this is the thing about this episode. It's just so packed with things. Like when Jake turned up, I was like, they're throwing everything. I love it. It's like, it's a little cherry on top of just an addition that wasn't needed. It's like, it's just so, it's like just an added garnish to a really good dish of just added scandal because when Jake turned up, I was screaming because it made total sense. Like, yes, Stevie can be lovely, and Stevie would probably, I think, offer David and Patrick like kind of use of her apartment if she wasn't there anyway. But there was that tinge of guilt. You know, it came from that point as well.
Did you think she was actually going to a spa? Because that was like the excuse she gives originally. No, you immediately were like, something
work
else
has been really stressful recently. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No. If anything, work's been like good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like didn't buy that, but I didn't think into it though. That's the thing, as I took Stevie at her word and that. So that's a fool to do so.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because then they show up and it's so awkward because Jake just walks in such a Jake way. He kind of reminds me of Roland in that way, where he just doesn't think. Like, he just does.
Okay.
So he just kind of shows up not really understanding why it would be a problem, and like kisses David on the mouth, which is such a choice. Who's this guy?
So like kind of, you could see Patrick being like, the fuck? Buddy?
Yeah, you're gonna need to do some explaining right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then he calls Stevie Pony, and I just have so many questions about this.
Yeah, too many questions.
Like, okay, the obvious implication is like, well, you ride a pony, so like, there's that.
Yeah, there is that.
Like, does she do some kind of weird like thing at some
point?
Does
she eat lots of carrots?
Does she neigh? Why would you? I'm sorry, I'm laughing and it's causing me to cough. Like, why would someone's nickname be Pony?
It's a horrible nickname. It's a horrible nickname. Like,
Pony.
If anyone's listening and your nickname is Pony, please explain to us why, because I don't understand why anyone would ever be called Pony.
I don't know. Like, it has to be something sexual, right? Like, there's no way it can't be. Like, what other reason would there be? Pony.
Are we... This thing, I want to ask you if we're going to get an explanation for it, but I'm kind of content with there not being one, because it's just, I think it's funnier the more absurd it is. If we get an answer, though, I won't be unhappy. But at the moment, I've got no idea.
I asked ChatGPT, why would someone be nicknamed Pony?
Don't.
And here are the answers it gave me. It could be a physical trait, like a long hair like a ponytail. Or they would be small and energetic, reminiscent of a pony. It could be that they have a spirited or playful, giddy nature. That's not Stevie. Hobbies or interests. Maybe they love horses or equestrian activities. Or they're like a workhorse. They're dependable.
No. Just no. ChatGPT, no.
Anyway, her nickname is Pony. It's super awkward. And as soon as they leave, Patrick is like, yeah, I'm going to need to know exactly what the hell is going on. Cause he's confused. Fair enough. As to like, okay, I already knew you and Stevie had a thing at some point, but now you're trying to tell me that the three of you were like a throuple or something. Like, he needs some clarification.
They weren't. That nearly was a throuple, and he said no to that. I don't want any of that. So this is the thing. It's a complex explanation that is absolutely necessary. I love the fact that while he's trying to process it as Jake and Stevie are leaving, David is just kind of like stroking him a little bit, just being like, let's just ignore it and carry on with the evening kind of thing. And then obviously grabbing the whiskey that Stevie has marked above the line to get some free whiskey out of them. Genius as well. I love it.
The physical bits from David is so funny in these scenes because the stroking of Patrick is funny. And then when they're having the conversation afterward about the whole Jake and Stevie thing, David goes, who's feeling sexy? And he like tries to kiss Patrick, and Patrick's like, yeah, no, like I'm getting there. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, we've been praising the hell out of Annie Murphy for like her physical acting, but it's great to see it in David as well, because they are siblings and they would like behave the exact same way. Like it was done at the beginning as well when Johnny comes out with the pregnancy test. He's like, why are you waving a thermometer around? And he goes, it's a pregnancy test. He goes, ew. Like, it's just so cathartic.
That and the very, very first scene when Johnny comes in and he says, "Oh kids, it's garbage day," and they're like, "Oh good, ours is full." And he's like, "I've told you to leave them outside your door." And both of them, you have like David says, "Okay, but I like just put something in there that made it full though." And Alexa says, "Yeah, and you're already wearing those little gloves though." Like the way they both end their sentences with though, it just it feels like they're related.
Yeah. And it's great because the physical acting kind of like backs that whole relationship up with the fact that they are kind of like the same person in the way they act, because I mean they would be the siblings.
Yeah. It's so good.
Dan Levy was brilliant in this episode with that kind of like they just kind of like being this little like kind of almost like nymph of chaos a little bit, and like playing into being the mischievous one. I loved it.
Yeah, it's very playful, and I appreciate that him and Patrick have that like playfulness in their relationship already.
Yeah.
It feels like their relationship feels very lived in, even though it's pretty new. And they obviously have a great night because the next morning David does the walk of shame, and he does look pretty shameful. Like his hair, like he looks a little messy. And I did pull a clip because we have just like I think this is a GIF from Schitt's Creek. At least I'm remembering it being one. When he's like, "Oh, I was just outside," and Johnny says, "Oh, a little past curfew," and Alexis says,
"Burn,
David." Burn, David. It's just so good.
I love that they have a curfew and get in their late 20s.
He's like, in his 30s now.
Oh, he's in his 30s, yeah.
Had the audacity to tell me I had a curfew in my 30s. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, all while he's collecting their rubbish, like fair play, apply a curfew. Like if you're still
put your little trash outside.
Them,
come on.
Yeah.
But
it's a hard pass.
That's our episode. And it was so fun.
Great one.
It's a
really good episode.
Okay, let's get into some feedback here. We heard from Shannon, who says, "Your whole discussion regarding the scones in the Dead Guy in Room 4 episode was driving me crazy, since you and Stuart were speaking two different languages. What the Brits call scones are the same as what we call biscuits. Soft, crumbly biscuits that you would put butter or jam on, or with sausage and gravy if you like that instead. Clotted cream is basically butter, but it's not churned and has a slightly different taste, although it looks and spreads just like butter. I tried to find the British equivalent of what we call scones, but it seems like it's not something they have." Stuart.
Hot take. Biscuits are not scones, and I'm going to die on that hill. They are not totally different. They're like the same shape, I guess.
Do you all have biscuits? Like I know you call cookies biscuits or something, right? Or no? Is that what it is?
You call biscuits cookies, Jess. So we don't really have like savory biscuits over here. Like our biscuits are what you guys would consider cookies, which are like snappable confection.
They're not savory. They're sweet. Yeah, biscuits are
sweet,
savory. Yeah.
Whereas our scones are like definitely sweet. Like there's so much sugar in them. And so like I think there's a slight difference in that kind of thing. Plus, I think aren't your biscuits like flaky?
Yeah. So if a good biscuit should be able to be like peeled off in layers. And most of the time, like if you're doing like I've had biscuits and gravy before. You get like if you go to like, do you have Cracker Barrel? You know Cracker Barrel. We have do you know what Cracker Barrel is?
No.
Okay. Cracker Barrel is like, and no one get offended by this because I do not mean it offensively. It is like an old people restaurant, like to the point where they have rocking chairs outside. And like it's very like Southern food. So like sausage and biscuits and gravy and I'm trying to think of some of the like chicken fried steak, like all that sort of stuff that you can get at Cracker Barrel. And that's where I would expect to find like a lot of like flaky biscuits.
Right. Because I remember when we went over to the US and we went to like a place that did fried chicken, and it was fried chicken and biscuits, and my mum was horrified because she was like, why would you have biscuits with fried chicken? And I had to explain to her. I was like, because I knew what they were. But she was
she
just
thought
being
it was cookies.
really,
Yeah.
she was like, I think playing up the ignorance. She was like, I'm just outraged. These aren't biscuits. And I was like, Mum, I'm being weird.
You're freaking out the Americans, Mom.
But I think what we should do is we should get the Americans, the British, and the Australians all into a room together, and we should finally just get ourselves on the same level with describing things as we describe them. Because chips, we're all over the place with those. Don't even get us started on chips.
Yeah, because our chips for us are crisps. For you. And wait, aren't chips in Australia and the UK the same thing? Aren't they both French fries?
I believe chips in Australia are the same as the US. So you'd call them the same things. Okay. But they call what we would call chips, so like what you would call fries, they call hot chips, if I remember rightly.
Okay.
Just throwing in another... Is that what we should do, though? We should go to the base level of what it is. Just potato.
Start with potato, and then we add on. So you either do like crispy potato, or you do like sliced potato. I don't know. There's a way to do it. Or patatas. Like you could just like change the word potato into something else.
I don't think we're going to come to a solution on this podcast. And I don't think we're the authority to really make sure that change is enacted.
No, but either way, I was informed by many people after the last podcast that I have just not had a good scone, which I fully believe. Like, I am not trying to say that I've had the best scone ever and I didn't like it. I'm fully willing to like say to people that, yes, I probably have not had a good scone. And also I probably have not put the right like toppings on the scone to also like appreciate it. So I understand. I never understood scones. I love a pastry, okay? I love a pastry. Give me a cheese Danish all day, baby. I will eat it. Scones, just the ones I've had to try. So that's all.
Just more of an excuse to try even more.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say.
Okay. We also got a message from Jared saying, literally my favorite sitcom trope is when two characters have one conversation on two separate pages. This Alexis Johnny conversation isn't my favorite instance of it, but it's still a really good one.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that can get really kind of overdone. Like, I think if like we said, if they hadn't been resolved really quickly, I think it wouldn't have been as effective because it is such a trope. Like, it's not a new thing. Like, I can't imagine a writer writing this scene and going, no one's ever done this before. I'm the best writer ever. It's like, you're writing something that has been done 1,000 times. So I think it was a really classy choice to end it quickly.
Same.
And the way they did it was really good.
Aaron says, Aaron had some feedback about last episode. I didn't watch in time to get my feedback in, but I think this is my overall least favorite episode of the whole series, which makes me feel justified in like where we put it on our tier rankings. Because I was like a little bit like, I feel a little weird doing this, but I'm glad that Aaron agrees. Stuart as an Aussie, which makes us basically sisters from another mister. I obviously think I didn't pre-read this. Now it's making me laugh. I obviously think scones with jam and cream are top tier. However, the clotted cream sounds kind of a lot and did not sound appetizing. We use thickened cream. When Jess asked if you meant cream cheese, Zeph. Some of the comments above with scones in packets are blasphemy. Straight out of the oven is the only way. What is thickened cream? Do you have thickened cream?
Like you have like double cream, where basically it's like reduced cream almost.
Or
so condensed.
Lost. Are we talking about like whipped cream?
No, because that's whipped. Like it's like you take out less of the water content of the cream, so it's thicker.
Okay, so you're just using heavy cream and like beating the shit out of it.
Heavy cream, yeah.
Okay.
I don't even think you're needing to like beat the shit out of it. I think it's just heavy cream, maybe. I don't know.
So it's more liquidy?
I don't know. Australia's weird. They got big spiders. They got problems.
They got kangaroos everywhere, man. Just watch out. Scones with jam and cream. When Erin says scones with jam and cream, she's talking about what type of cream?
I don't know. I'm hoping like a thick
You're her
cream, 'cause
sister from
otherwise
another mister, Stuart. You should know.
I'm a terrible sibling. I'm the David in the situation. I'm hoping it's not too liquidy, because otherwise, I mean, that's just like creamy soup, right? Like, you're muted. You absolute podcast amateur, Jessica.
Wait, I wasn't muted. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Woo. Okay. I just don't get it. I'll have to look up all these different types of cream, because in my mind, there's like whipped cream, which comes out of the can. It goes, whipped cream.
You know you can't get whipped cream outside of a can.
Okay, but I'm American. Let's be real.
Okay, everything comes canned.
Everything is in a can. Bread, ham, spam, everything in a can. So there's whipped cream. There's like cream cheese. There's Cool Whip. Do you have Cool Whip?
What the heck is Cool Whip?
I truly don't know.
All I know
cool
is there's the Family Guy skit of like Cool Whip.
Cool Whip. What is? I want to see what it is. It's a brand of a whipped topping. That tells me nothing.
A whipped topping. That's such an American food produce name of like getting around some sort of weird taxation thing. It's like it's not dairy because it's like
I don't know if it
topping.
is dairy.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what it is.
100% synthetic corn syrup, I'm guessing.
It probably is. Okay, here we go. In its original formation, Cool Whip contained 0 cream or milk. Today, it's been reformulated to contain a splash of light cream alongside corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated
is corn
vegetable
syrup.
oil, skim milk, and a few artificial and natural flavors. So it's advertised as whipped topping.
I reiterate my point from earlier in the pod. How the hell are you guys the world superpower? What with this like diet?
We're all gonna die of really weird diseases. Yeah. I don't know where I left off on my point with that. I was just confused by the amount of different types of cream. Okay, I need someone to just give me like a chart of like what the different types of cream are and like how they're made. Like, is it all just heavy cream and we're just like beating it different amounts? You know, I need to know.
I feel like there's a Wikipedia article out there that waiting for us to be read. Yeah. I'm sure it must exist. I'm sure there must be someone that could point us in the direction of it, because I think we need educating is what we found.
I mean, I need educating in more than one way. But that's all for our feedback. So if you want to send some in, podcast at Talking Shit. I'm so sorry. I'm coughing so much. I'm getting over a cold. I apologize if it is really grating for some people. Let's get into our ratings here. So Stuart, this episode, who's simply the best?
See, these ones are always tough when you've got like a really good episode and everyone's wonderful because it means so many people are up for contention. I'm not going to miss an opportunity to give it to Johnny when one presents. I feel like he's owed it. I think that he was delightful in this. Good, safe pair of hands. I would want Johnny in my life if I was in Alexis's situation and I was actually pregnant. That's a weird set of circumstantial evidence.
I wasn't pregnant. If you were pregnant, Stuart, we'd need to like.
I think I'd need someone maybe a bit more qualified than Johnny to deal with the situation. Yeah. But I would want him to be there to help me.
Yeah. Similarly, as a spreadsheet girly, I appreciate Johnny's budgeting. I would want this for myself as well. You need someone with a level head and like he's looking at the financials. Like maybe that's not the fun aspect of like having a kid, but it is a necessary aspect. And I appreciate that Johnny is not only like willing to be budget guy, spreadsheet guy, but after Moira like freaking out and saying she's going to go in a home for unwed mothers, he's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be the one to talk to. Maybe it should be me. He's really taking all of this on. So I appreciate that from Johnny. And I'm also going to give him my simply the best point because he earned it.
Hey.
Disgruntled Pelican. This I think is a tougher one. Like I'm trying to think of like who's the worst. I think I know who I'm going to pick, and I'll go first because I feel like, and I hate to do this, but it feels justified. if I was Moira's 20-something-year-old daughter and I was pregnant, the last thing I'd want is for her to like yell at me about going to a home for unwed mothers and like how it's going to be all her responsibility, and like how having her say, I wanted to stop after one kid. Like, it's so brutal. Like, if there were anyone else that were even somewhat deserving of a disgruntled pelican point, I'd be throwing it their way. But truly, there isn't many options. And she is kind of the worst when she receives this news.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we also could give it to David for giving Patrick a hickey, but.
Oh, that's thrown me through a loop there, because I didn't even consider that. I'm not going to go with either, though.
Oh.
I'm going to go with Stevie.
Oh.
Because I'm sorry, as lucky as she is that David is in a good spot with Patrick and takes this without caring, that's some shady shit, that is. I'm sorry. The clues have been there for a while, what with the 2 toothbrushes, and like this has been going on a while.
Yep.
Not a good look for Stevie keeping that a secret for as long as she did, and for it to come out the way it did. Of course, I'm not super serious on it. Like, I'm not down on Stevie.
No, but you really just aren't any options, is the thing. But you're right. She did lie to David for a while. I think the only reason I didn't give her mine was because it was really kind of her to offer the apartment. Like, sure, there's like slightly a catch in terms of like she just feels guilty and that's why she's doing it. But she's still giving them a place to have sex, you know? Like, that's still a kind thing to do.
Well, you say that. She is also stealing strawberries from them as well. Like, she didn't pay for them and she kind of ran away.
The cost of like a hotel for a night, the cost of some strawberries. Like, come on. How much do the strawberries cost? Like $10? I mean, they're fancy strawberries.
I mean, yeah, probably a lot, considering that they're fleecing people.
Even if they're like 20.
Cheese, as Moira like overpaid for recently. But like, she's also marking the whiskey above the level that it is.
Yeah, that was funny. I liked that.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it, of course. But yeah, I think if I'm forced to pick an LVP, I'm going to have to pick Stevie for this one. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. It's a tough one to choose someone for. So, okay, incredible. Unfortunately, no wigs this week from Moira, which I feel like missed opportunities. I feel like she could have had, I don't know. Maybe she has like a frazzled wig, like when she goes to see Jocelyn when she's freaking out about the bebe.
That could have worked. Like, maybe if it reflected their personality that way. I wonder if we can like go back to like the ratings and then just change our LVP to the wardrobe department in not giving Moira a good wig.
Where are the wigs?
Yes.
Please. Okay.
We should do a counter how many days or episodes it's been since we've had a wig.
It has been so many. There's been 14 days since our last Moira wig sighting. All right, let's tier rank this episode. I'm sure it's going to do a lot better than You, David, which is what Dead Guy in Room 4 got. So, pregnancy test. Stuart, what are your thoughts and feelings? What do you think?
Okay. Recency bias is always a thing that I have to consider with this, because when there's a good episode, I'm always riding high on them. But F it. I think this is really deserving of it. I want to throw it in hot shit. What do you think?
I feel like I've laughed so much discussing this episode that like I just vibes alone. Like if I'm Johnny and I'm making a spreadsheet and I'm like trying to be objective, I'm probably more likely to put it in full bouquet. But I've had so much fun chatting about it, and I do think it moves the plot forward and is really funny. I think the only thing it's kind of missing is like your warm fuzzies, but not every hot shit episode has the warm fuzzies. I'm just trying to think.
The warm fuzzies a bit from when David and Patrick, when we first get to them in the apothecary, and they're kind of like flirting, like doing a little like kind of, that's really sweet, and I kind of got the warm fuzzies from that. Also from like Roland and Jocelyn, like
okay, that's true. That is warm fuzzy. That is, I think Roland's reaction
double warm fuzzies.
Yeah. Okay. I'm cool with putting it in hot shit. I think also just like the drastic difference. I know you had messaged me, Stuart, and we're like, wow, going from Dead Guy in Room 4 to this episode, like it feels like such a leap up that I think that's probably another reason why we're like so high on it, is because comparatively it's just that much better than the premiere.
Yeah. Why wasn't this the premiere?
I don't know. I don't know why shows feel the need. Sometimes I feel like shows like feel the need for their premiere to continue the wrap up of the prior season almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, because you like it's just jump in, hop on in. Or we're already warmed up. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But hot shit for this one. Very exciting. Next week, the title of next week's episode is kind of unhinged. Season 4, episode 3, Asbestos Fest. Or Asbestos Fest, I guess, depending on how you pronounce asbestos.
Something tells me
in the UK?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I hope. I'm guessing the motel is about to have some bad news.
My house had asbestos flooring.
Did it?
Well, yeah. So my house was built in the 50s, and when we moved in, there was like asbestos flooring throughout a lot of it. Generally speaking, like if you're going to remove it, you need to have like qualified people coming in, masks, the whole nine.
Yeah.
We just went straight over top of it because as long as you don't pick it up, it's fine. And there's nothing wrong with it being underneath the layers. But yeah, no, not good.
Ooh.
Asbestos is bad.
This is why you move into buildings that are older than asbestos. Because then you don't have to deal with it.
How does that work in the UK, Stuart? Aren't all your buildings like old as hell?
Yeah. You just deal with them being drafty as fuck.
So that's next week's episode. We'll see what happens there. Anything else on this one, Stuart? This has been great.
No, I think we've covered this one a lot. I just hope they keep this pace up because I really enjoyed this episode. I'm half tempted to rewatch it before watching the next one.
To be fair, I also watched it 3 times this week. Like I watched it yesterday, and then today I went to write my little recap, and I was like, I could write this recap without watching it again, but I'm just gonna watch it again anyway, just to make sure I don't miss anything, All right, well, we'll be back next week with season 4, episode 3. Don't forget to follow us everywhere at Talkin' Shit, especially subscribe to us on YouTube because eventually 200 subscribers will do something. We're slowly
It'll happen.
Leave a comment too. If you're a new subscriber, leave a comment. Let us know how you found the podcast, like your favorite character, a little Schitt's Creek anecdote. We're all ears. We love to hear it.
We love them, especially hearing about like how people watched the first time, whether it was like a pandemic watch, whether you were a fan beforehand. Yeah, we love all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So hit us up, and we'll be back next week with season 4, episode 3. Until then, warmest regards
and best wishes.